Hello, everyone. It's Sue Stiles
For you
here,
and
and
today.
today I'm bringing you Diana Noble. You are going to love listening to what she has to say. I've enjoyed talking to her a lot over this past year. She's a real estate broker of Seller Direct Northern. We'll talk about her jurisdictions. And she's also a business coach, Noble Choice Coaching. We met at the Banff Western Connection, and it's a great conference. If you have never been to the Banff Western Connection or a real estate conference, go. You never know who you're going to meet or what it might turn into. So I'm a big proponent of that. Nice to have you with us today. Hi, Diana.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here.
Tell us a little bit about where you practice and what places you serve.
Yeah, so I'm the owner and broker of Seller Direct Northern Homes Realty. We used to be called Seller Direct Fort McMurray when I first opened the doors 8 years ago. And about 6 or so years in, I had this vision to expand all the way to Edmonton. And of course, Seller Direct Fort McMurray wasn't going to work if we were practicing in Edmonton. So we changed our name to Northern Homes Realty. And now we have several agents we have agents up in Fort McMurray. We have some agents in Plamond and Lac La Biche area, as well as some agents down in Edmonton. So we're kind of taking over Northern Alberta, or I like to think we are. And I've got a really great team. And our motto is real people in real estate. So it's really important
Hmm.
to me as the broker to maintain that culture of just having fun with what you do and doing a really good job at it, and being in the industry for the right reasons. And so I can say wholeheartedly that I have such a phenomenal team.
Nice. I love that motto, real people in real estate. Yes. And these podcasts, these are real agents telling you, students, new agents, seasoned agents about the real estate industry, casual conversations about things that you're going to want to know about. And we're going to get into it with Diana. So maybe let's start with you started 10 years ago. What was it like when you started?
So when I started, I should first and foremost tell you that I've never exclusively done real estate. I am a serial entrepreneur and I have multiple businesses on the go. And when I became a licensed realtor, I had my own business. I was also freelancing for a local publication that I ended up purchasing a little less than a year after being licensed. And then I got my real estate license. So I was kind of doing three different things. And because of that, I already had a very well-established network where I was residing. I was very well integrated into the community. A lot of people knew me and trusted me. And so for me, getting into real estate, it was a natural transition because I'd previously been working in law as a paralegal. And when I transitioned into real estate, it was very similar in terms of what you were doing. I mean, I wasn't helping people buy and sell houses at the law firm necessarily, but from the contractual standpoint. And it was a really nice transition for me. And because I had that network, I was able to get in and get my first deal within the first, I want to say, 6 weeks.
Wow, really? Okay. This is something to listen to. So, how did you ask for that business or how did you let your network know? Maybe you can share a little bit about that.
So social media goes without saying, very important to leverage social media. I think we'll talk about that a little bit more in depth later on, but letting people know that you are in real estate and why you're in real estate and what you're doing and how you can help them. If people don't know, then they don't know. And when they have to think about who they're going to have buy or sell, help them buy or sell their property, your name's not going to come up because they're just unaware, right? So it's really important to let people know and to leverage your existing network, especially when you're first getting into it. I have a lot of my newer agents, they say something like, well, I'm new, and so people, they know that I'm new and they don't trust that or whatnot. But if you already have a network of people who just trust you as a human being, then I think it's irrelevant how much experience you have, because they know that you're going to do the best job possible for them because you already have that established relationship with them. And that's really important. Real estate is a people business. If you don't have people buying and selling, then you do not have a business. And that is the reality of the situation. So making
Yeah.
sure that you tell your friends, that you tell your family, that you do some marketing to let people know. Volunteering is a really great way to get out there in the community if you don't already have an established network. For example, let's say you've only recently moved to the city that you reside in. So you really don't know anybody, but if you get out there and you volunteer, you join a board of directors, you do a food drive. So it doesn't have to be too complicated, but that's a really great way to establish your network.
Yeah. Now, and listen, from a serial entrepreneur. Now, Diana knows what she's talking about. And everyone, whatever you bring into the industry, you all have your background and your history. But if you have never been an entrepreneur before, where that business is you, really a solopreneur, where you are the business, there is a little bit of a learning curve before you maybe find the way to expose yourself and tell people about yourself and be your greatest fan and help other people to know you.
Absolutely. That's actually one of the biggest challenges that I find as a broker when it comes to new agents getting into the industry. And this isn't just exclusive to real estate. As you mentioned, I'm a high performance business coach, and it's a lot of new entrepreneurs who run into this situation. The entrepreneur is the technician. So as a real estate agent, for example, they get into this career because they believe that they're going to enjoy helping people buy and sell homes. Okay, that's what they're in this to do. But they don't consider that they're actually running a little mini business underneath the brokerage that they're in. Right. And it's the same thing with the electrician or the plumber. They're really good at rewiring houses, not so great at customer service or invoicing or all of those other business components. So that would be one of the biggest challenges, is that when people get into real estate, they think it's just going to be super easy. I'm going to make lots and lots of money. It's all going to come to me. I'm not even going to have to work for it. It's just somehow magically I'm going to be a top producer. And that's really not how it goes. You need to hustle. You need to consider your marketing efforts. You need to pay taxes. So maybe set up your GST if you're making a certain amount over, it's $30,000 within a year period that you then need to have a GST number. You need to set up systems for yourself. And the number one biggest thing that you need to do is motivate yourself, because nobody is going to be hounding you to get out of bed, and nobody is going to suffer if you don't succeed other than you. So you need to learn how to do the right things to run your business and to acquire clients and to get out there and to get seen in the community, so that people create that connection with you and that you are top of mind when they're looking to buy or sell their next property.
I totally agree with everything you're saying. And once in a while, somebody who isn't a student yet will give me a call and I'm thinking of becoming a realtor. I want to get into real estate. Could you give me any advice, or, what do you think I should do? And to be honest, I will try to talk them out of it. If I can talk you out of it, don't do it, because you have to
Love that.
be passionate
Mm-hmm.
enough to overcome every single roadblock, turn them into your stepping stones, I always say. But you've got to overcome those yourself. And I think you nailed it, Diana. You have to be able to motivate yourself. Your broker's not going to do it. You don't have a boss you're clocking in and out with. So it's all up to you. Um, when you were talking a little bit, I was reminded of a great book called The E-Myth. And some of
Mm.
what you're
Yeah,
saying, you've read that book, yeah,
I have. Yeah.
relates to that. Um, you're the technician, but in real estate, you do the skill, but you are also running everything else. Do you think that surprises people when they get into the business?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They don't realize all of the moving parts that go into being a successful real estate agent.
Yeah.
For my agents that come on board, I was just having this conversation with somebody the other day, actually. my agents come on board. I mean, we have a significant training process that they go through, but it's setting things up from the ground roots, setting up your Facebook page, choosing your brand colors, what are your fonts look like just from the branding perspective. But then it's also your CRM and setting that up and making sure you know how to utilize it, not even considering the whole entire process of taking somebody out to go see properties or listing a property, right? There's all of these other moving parts that you really need to get a handle on. And a lot of people have told me that it's very overwhelming. And I get that. I've started 5 separate businesses in the last 12 years. I still run 4 today. And I know that there's a lot that goes into getting a business off the ground. So whether I'm talking about a full-fledged business or your little mini business as a realtor underneath the brokerage that you're with, it's really all the same thing. There's going to be a couple of things that you don't necessarily have to do as a realtor that like maybe a full-fledged business would do, but not very many, right? You are out there to sell yourself. You are your business, essentially.
Yeah. And I'm glad to hear that you have a robust training program, because when a student gets their license, most of them are looking around going, now what am I supposed to do now? Who's going to tell me what to do now? And I talked with an agent this week at a local board, and he's been doing real estate for 10 years and he's doing okay. But he just, and as I think a lot of students do, they just fumble their way along. They're just trying to get clients and then they react to that. And after 10 years, now he's realizing, wait, I can't scale my business any higher unless I put the foundations into place, like exactly what you were talking about at the beginning.
100%. Yeah, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of energy. But if you do the right things, if you seek outside of yourself, if you are coachable, trainable, then you can set yourself up for that future success. And I highly recommend you look at some of those systems very early on, because it can be very easy to get into bad habits as a realtor and not train yourself to, actively engage with your leads, not train yourself to, do a marketing on social media every day. It can be a trap that a lot of people fall into that can really make or break whether or not they're going to be successful in this career.
Yeah. So let's outline just a few of those things briefly. So I'm hearing you say you need to set up a CRM, a client relationship management system. If you've never used one, go ahead, start right at the beginning. I hear you say when you get a lead, you've got to have some kind of a automatic follow-up process. What else are just a handful of things agents need to grasp when they're starting?
Yeah, if their brokerage has a unique business model like ours does, you need to know what that is so that you can properly educate your clients. You need to continuously invest in yourself, your own growth and learning, to make sure that you are competent enough to serve your clients. Social media is another side of things. So setting up a Facebook page, setting up an Instagram profile, TikTok, maybe you want to do YouTube. There's a whole plethora of options out there for you. I would highly suggest you pick 1 or 2 that you can do consistently, because if you're not consistent, it doesn't matter how many platforms you're on. If you're on Twitter, but you haven't tweeted in, a year and a half, well, then who cares? Your profile's actually working against you instead of for you. Choosing your brand. Now, I say this with a grain of salt because not all brokerages allow agents to individually brand. But I'm a firm believer as a business owner, as a coach, that everybody should establish their own brand. So what does that look like? Well, of course, you're going to have your logo for your brokerage, and that's important. But a lot of agents, they create their own logos on top of that, and they might have their own website. Maybe not. I know I had my own website right from the very beginning. But I would say that I think only one of my agents actually has their own website now, because we do everything for the brokerage. But that's great. I mean, that sets her apart because there's a lot of other agents not doing that right now. So your logo, your colors, choose 3 colors that you're going to use consistently throughout all of your marketing. A good brand you can recognize without even knowing who it is, right? If you see a pop can and it's got blue on it, you're probably thinking Pepsi, right? Without even seeing that it's Pepsi, because the branding is so on point. Your brand includes your colors as well, your fonts, your tone, making sure that you're speaking to the right audience. Know who your target is. You know, are you going to be an agent who serves everybody, buyers and sellers of all age categories, of all age groups, or are you going to specialize? Are you going to help seniors who are transitioning into long-term care? Are you going to help first-time home buyers who have never done it before? So you do have that ability to niche out if that's what you want to do. And I've seen some people do some very cool things when they decide to niche themselves.
Yeah.
Most agents kind of take care of everything, but there is an advantage to being a specialist. So it is something you may want to consider. What else do they need to do? Set
I
up
was
their
just going to interject.
voicemail, set up their email, all of
Oh
these
my
different
gosh,
things.
yes.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to interject. As you're saying that, I can imagine a lot of realtors going, "I'll take anyone as a client." I don't want to. I don't want to say no to anyone, but after your years of experience, you can see that by specializing or niche marketing, you're not saying no to anybody, but you are saying yes in particular to a group of people. Would you say that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't see a lot of agents niching. I have seen a few of them that have done it very well. And
Yeah.
of course, if you're a specialist, then people know that you have that expertise. You've honed in on what serves that category, that population of people. So it's not a bad idea. Maybe at first you want to just kind of take on everything that you can just to get that experience. But yeah, definitely being more selective as you go on in your career of who you're going to work with. And just remembering too that you're not going to be everybody's realtor. Just like I'm not going to be everybody's business coach. There's going to be people who gravitate to me because of what I do. And there's going to be people who gravitate to you because of who you are. And that's okay, right? You don't need to serve everybody. And sometimes it's better to not, know what your own boundaries are. If and so that's another thing, establishing boundaries right from the get-go. A lot of people, they have that FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. And so they think that they need to stay up till 11:30 at night negotiating deals. I can't tell you the last time I stayed up till that late negotiating deals, because I let my clients know I go to bed around 9:30. So if we're in negotiations, I'm going to set expectations accordingly. And I've never
Yes.
had anybody have an issue with it. And if I did, they're probably not the client for me. Right. So
Yeah.
just keeping that in
Time
mind. What are your
management.
boundaries? How are you setting expectations with your
Mhm.
clientele?
Yeah. Time management is a big deal, whether
Huge.
yeah, wake up on time, go to bed on time, set your expectations for your clients to manage your time as well. I think we were talking at one point, and you mentioned something that you see in a lot of new agents, which is a bit of a lack of confidence. I mean, of course, you're in a new industry. If you're a student and you're looking into this new industry and you don't have any experience yet, do you have any advice for people? How can you build your confidence quickly?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I think choosing the right brokerage makes a lot of sense, right? Interviewing various brokerages, seeing what they do to support you in that category, right? Are they just kind of, okay, great, you're on board, now figure it out? Or are they taking you under their wing? Are they holding your hand, showing you the ropes, bringing you to those networking events, encouraging your growth? Those are all very important things. One of the conversations I had with one of my agents recently, who's on the newer side of things, they said, we're just not sure. People will ask us questions and then we just feel so stupid saying, I don't know, I don't know. And I said, why don't you reframe that? Instead of saying, I don't know, which makes you feel inferior, makes you have a lack of confidence because you don't understand or you're not sure what the answer is. Instead of saying that, why don't you say, hey, you know what? That's a really good question. Let me find that out for you. Can I get your name and number? And I'm going to follow up with you. So what did you just do there? First and foremost, you didn't say, I don't know. So that's one. Secondly, it's an opportunity for your own learning and growth, because now you're given that opportunity to find out something that you didn't know. So of course that grows your wealth of knowledge. And
Yeah.
then you also captured name and phone number, and you can get back to that person. So that's a potential lead, and you're providing value to that person, whereas somebody may not have gone out of their way to do that. So, you know, just showing up is the first thing. Honestly, if you can just show up, whether that's on social media, a live video, whether that's going to a Chamber of Commerce luncheon, whatever the case may be, if you can just show up, that is half the battle. Because once you're there, you don't really have you don't really have much of a choice, right? You're there and you're doing it. But that is half the battle. And that is what most people have a hard time with, is just showing up in whichever way, shape, or form that is, whether, like I said, that's online, if it's in person.
Yeah.
But once you show up and once you are there and you get outside of your comfort zone, you really need to push yourself outside of your comfort zone. They say the comfort zone is a really great place, but nothing ever grows there. And if you don't push yourself outside of your comfort zone, sorry to tell you, you're probably not going to be that successful in real estate. And that's just the hard truth.
Well, it's the irony of it, isn't it? Because when you're not 100% confident, you're not feeling like you know all the answers to the questions, we usually shrink back, and take a back seat. We keep our mouths shut more. So hear what Diana is saying, when it is your business, it's okay, and you should take the risks, step out. And we were also talking, depending on the city that you're working in, there's differences in every city, in different towns. There's differences in the markets. Maybe I really liked what you were saying about that before, about well, what are some of the differences that you see, and how can an agent find out about those things?
Yeah. So obviously, if you have a connection with a realtor in that location that you can mentor with, that's going to be incredibly important for you. But yeah, some of the differences, and I really noticed this in the last couple of years, because as we expanded out to Plamond and Lac La Biche and then Edmonton, it's totally different there than it is up in Fort McMurray. So one example of that is in Fort McMurray, I would say 98%, maybe more, deals close with title insurance in lieu of a real property report and compliance. And that's relatively unheard of in most other places in Alberta. It's something very unique to this community because first and foremost, we have a lack of Alberta land surveyors up here. So it costs a couple $1,000s just to get a survey done. And secondly, there's a whole bunch of issues up here when it comes to property lines and whatnot, because of when Fort McMurray boomed back in, the 80s, 70s, 80s. I don't think things were necessarily done right here. And another thing that we have up here a lot, and I'm not even sure if I haven't seen it in other areas of the province, maybe you can tell me if you guys see this in Calgary, is preserved wood foundations.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No.
So you probably have like strictly concrete, whereas up here we have PWFs that require an engineering report to make sure that they're all still good, because there was a builder here in the 80s, and that was kind of his thing, was to do wood foundations. And there's a lot of pros and cons to wood or versus concrete, pros and cons to each. But yeah, something that's very unique to up here in Fort McMurray. Same thing with like the floodplains. And you'll find that, I think, in High Prairie is where there was flooding a few years ago in terms of like the insurance. You definitely see it here in Fort McMurray in the downtown sector. So yeah, various things that come up depending on where you are. And you'll notice that if you are doing business, because in Alberta, you're licensed throughout the province. So you can actually help people buy and sell. Not that I recommend to do it because of exactly what we're speaking about here. You do have a fiduciary duty to provide competent service. And if you are from Calgary and you're up here in Fort McMurray and you don't know any of those things, you're technically doing an injustice to your client down in up in Fort McMurray. But yeah, you do have that ability to do that. But yeah, play it play it safe there, and make sure you have conversations with other real estate professionals to find out what the intricacies are where they're located or where you're planning on becoming licensed.
I think that's really interesting. And I think realtors, students would find it interesting. And now, if they went and talked to their broker or some other realtors and found out these things, I mean, there's a great blog or social media post, and now they know about it. And
Mm-hmm.
so, it's important to find out those things and realize, I guess, the assumptions that everybody does business the way you do, and the situations are all the same, are not.
No, not at all. So different.
Welcome to the being an entrepreneur in real estate. Okay. Um, where should we go from here? What I really want to know, and I hope you haven't answered it already because you have so much good advice, but what do you hear students say when they look back, one thing that they just wish they would have known when they started, one thing that would have made a difference, or one thing, they go, why didn't I know that? Does anything come to mind?
Well, for me, going back to my own experience, it really was about that support. When I first became licensed, I joined a property management brokerage. So I was really the only realtor there, and my broker hadn't done a deal in 5, 6, 7 years. So she didn't really have, not that she was unsupportive, don't get me wrong, she was very supportive in terms of, my growth and whatnot, but she wasn't a very good resource some of the times for how deals are negotiated or whatnot. I can remember my very first deal. Now, I'm coming from a legal background, just let me preface this, right? And my very first deal, I had written in a condition, subject to the appraised value being equal to or greater than the purchase price, which is a common clause that we use up here in Fort McMurray. And I forgot to waive that condition because I wasn't like looking at the additional conditions that I had written in, and I forgot to waive it. And so that came to my attention about 4 days after condition removal. And here I was panicking, like, oh my gosh, I've prejudiced my client. I'm going to get sued. They're going to sue me, like, and I freaked out a little bit internally, thinking that I had just done a horrific thing. Now, did that situation all work itself out? Absolutely. So I would just say that, if you have that support, somebody that you can go to, somebody that you can mentor with to kind of walk you through the processes as you're getting familiarized, that is a bonus to you. I highly encourage you to seek out that type of an environment where you have that support. And secondly, I would suggest that there's a lot of things that you can do to fix things, okay? So try not to panic too much. At the end of the day, if you are doing the right things in your mind, like you have a good, the reason for you doing things is from a perspective of trying to do your best. Okay. Now, sometimes things are going to happen and you're going to feel really stupid, just like I did in that moment. But chances are pretty high that everything will sort itself out. So just like my situation, everything sorted itself out. The deal went through, everything was fine and dandy. I will never forget that experience. But now when I'm training my agents and they come up to me and say, oh, like, what about this? What about this? I'm like, it's all good. Just like, calm down. Like, don't get all bent out of shape. Like, we can work through this. And yeah, it's just like that first time homeowner, first time home buyer, and they're walking through a house and they're like, oh, look at that, a dimmer switch. I'm so excited. And you just kind of like, anyways, I don't know why I told that story there, but it's kind of similar, right? It's like that you are going through the motions, it's all brand new to you, and you get really excited about things or really frightened about things. and really you just need to take a step back, calm down, speak to somebody. And if you have that supportive environment, then that's definitely a win in your corner.
You described that so well. I can feel it within myself. Like, Yes. Okay. Deep breath. Remind yourself most things can be fixed.
Yeah.
Even just like home inspectors often say, they might find a whole bunch of little things, but they can all be fixed. It's not like the house is falling apart in 99% of the cases. They're just little things and you can fix them. I mean, gosh, how many realtors have ended up having to buy an appliance or something for a buyer when, something goes south or the sellers take it or it
Oh,
doesn't get written in. You
you
got a
just
story for that?
reminded me of something. Oh, I have to tell this story, Sue. This was a big learning thing for me. And I highly recommend you never do this as an agent. So I was representing a seller, and during the home inspection side of things, it was something to do with the bathroom, and they had to replace the tub surround or something to that effect. I think it was they had to rip out the tiles, and it all had to be redone by a contractor because the home inspector found like a leak behind it with his machine.
Yeah.
I coordinated everything for my client, and I thought my client, we had an understanding that I was doing this legwork for him, but he was going to be paying the bill. And my client never paid the bill. And it
Oh,
was a
no.
$2,000 bill. And guess who the contractor came after? Right here.
Okay.
So that was that was a huge learning for me. Is it's great to want to be of service, but you need to get your ducks in a row, and you need to make sure that you're not the one coordinating things for your client, that you're giving them the tools and the resources to do what they need to do, and you're supporting them in that. Because I will never forget that story either. It was that was also in my first year in real estate. It was like a
Ah, oh,
kind of a
no.
moment, you know?
Yes.
Dagger in the heart.
Oh, so everyone listening will never forget that experience. And that is a good word to the wise. Gosh, thank you so much. Just a boatload of information here. I'm sure people have even taken notes, but if they want to talk to you further, where can they find you? Where could they reach you if they have questions or want to connect?
Yeah, so our Facebook page and Instagram is Seller Direct Northern Homes. It's Northern Homes Realty, but our tag is just Seller Direct Northern Homes. You can find us on TikTok as well. And if you are a new agent who's just reaching out because you have some questions, maybe you want to see if you want to join my brokerage, just shameless plug out there. You can reach out to me directly. Find me on LinkedIn, Diana Noble, or you can contact me on my cell phone, 780-880-7807, and I would be happy to answer any questions. Getting into real estate could be a really lucrative career, but you have to set yourself up for success right from the get-go. And if I can help do that for any other new agents and help them be successful, that is why I opened my brokerage. So I'm happy to do that.
Thank you so much. I'll tell you, you don't often get a busy broker offering up her cell phone number. So thank you for that. That's very generous. And if you have questions, take Diana up on it. Connect with her. Thank you for your time today
Thank
and all of
you.
your brilliant info. And thank you all out there for listening or watching if you're on YouTube or